"Sir, you need to step away from the dock immediately." The cop's hand was already moving toward his belt when I started laughing. Not the nervous kind, the kind that comes when the universe hands you the ultimate punchline. 30 seconds earlier, Delilah Whitmore had been screaming about how I was trespassing on Lake Reserve property. Her voice carried that perfect pitch of entitled fury. Now she's watching from her $1 million deck, waiting for me to get arrested. What she doesn't know is that I just inherited the deed controlling every drop of water flowing to their lakefront development. Sometimes when life hands you an HOA president who thinks she owns the lake, you find out you actually own all their water access. 3 months ago, I was Rex Thornton, 52-year-old retired electrician from Denver, staring at life insurance paperwork. My wife Clara had lost her fight with cancer the year before. Every corner of our house carried the ghost of her lavender perfume mixed with hospital antiseptic. The estate auction notice arrived on a Tuesday. Uncle Jasper, my dad's hermit brother who'd lived on some Montana lake for 40 years, had finally passed. His estate was going to public auction. Lake Reserve parcel with associated territorial water rights. Minimum bid $150,000. Clara always said I should take more risks. With $180,000 from her life insurance, I figured why not? Mountain property, lakefront access, and whatever those water rights meant sounded like a solid retirement plan. The drive to Pine Lake, Montana beat Denver's smog-choked air. The auction was held right on the property, and the place took my breath away. A modest 1960s cabin sat on 3 pristine acres with a weathered cedar dock stretching into crystal clear water. Uncle Jasper had hand-built that dock from selected logs, every joint fitted like fine furniture. Here's what nobody mentioned during the auction: Pine Lake Estates surrounded my purchase like a necklace of million-dollar homes. 47 luxury houses, each marketed with exclusive lake access. I bought the property for exactly $150,000. What I didn't realize was that Lake Reserve parcel meant I'd just purchased the heart of their entire development, and those mysterious territorial water rights were about to become the most expensive oversight in HOA history. Enter Delilah Whitmore. She materialized during Week 2 like some suburban conquistador. Clipboard, measuring tape, designer workout clothes that cost more than most people's rent, perfectly styled blonde hair, and a smile that could flip from sweet to surgical faster than a breaker trips. Welcome to Pine Lake Estates. I'm Delilah, HOA president. We need to discuss compliance issues with your purchase. I was replacing rotted dock planks when she arrived. She rattled off violations like a court clerk: dock setback requirements, architectural guidelines, community aesthetic standards. The previous owner was difficult about modernizing, but I'm sure you'll be more reasonable about bringing things up to community standards. I wiped sawdust off my hands and looked at her clipboard. Every violation targeted Uncle Jasper's dock. Lady, I bought this at public auction with clear title. Maybe let me figure out what I actually own before you start telling me what's wrong with it. Her smile went arctic. Mr. Thornton, Pine Lake Estates is a premier community. Property values here average $1.2 million. We have standards. That was my first hint Delilah Whitmore had picked a fight with the wrong electrician. 3 days later, Delilah returned with what she called a state environmental inspector named Dale, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He carried an official-looking clipboard and wore a polo shirt with a state seal that seemed suspiciously crooked. Dale started poking around my shoreline, taking photos and making notes. But something was eating at me. Dale kept asking questions that had nothing to do with environmental impact. Then I spotted his Ford F-150 with Dale's fine furniture, "We deliver dreams," painted on the side. I pulled out my phone and dialed the Montana Department of Environmental Quality while Dale was still measuring. "Hi, this is Rex Thornton on Pine Lake. I've got an environmental inspector here named Dale, and I wanted to confirm his visit was scheduled." The voice was friendly but confused. "We don't have any inspections scheduled for Pine Lake, and we don't have an inspector named Dale." I put the phone on speaker and repeated the question loud enough for Dale to hear. His face went white and he literally ran, sprinting to his furniture truck and peeling out. He dropped his fake state ID badge, a laminated printout that wouldn't fool a mall cop. But Delilah doubled down. Well, that just proves my point. You're intimidating official personnel. Private community standards supersede state regulations anyway. The woman had balls. Caught running a fake inspection scam, and she's flipping it like I'm the problem. Lady, your brother-in-law just fled after impersonating a government official. That's a federal crime, not a community standard. Her eyes flashed dangerously. That lake reserve property should belong to this community, not some outsider. We'll see what the courts say about your fraudulent purchase. That night, I called a real estate attorney. Turns out my deed was solid as bedrock. Not only was the auction completely legal, but the previous owners had retained territorial water extraction privileges nobody had explained. The lawyer's exact words, "Mr. Thornton, you didn't just buy lakefront property. You bought something far more valuable. I'd strongly suggest you research what those territorial water rights mean." The certified letter arrived 2 days later. Emergency HOA meeting protecting community water access. Delilah was organizing a session to discuss threats to their exclusive lake privileges and legal action against fraudulent property claims. She planned to convince all homeowners to pool money for a lawsuit forcing me to sell back to the community. Water rights. There was that phrase again. A beat-up Chevy truck pulled into my driveway. Out stepped a guy about 38, wearing work boots and carrying surveying equipment. "You must be Rex." "I'm Garrett Flynn, local surveyor and part-time fishing guide." "Heard Delilah's declaring war on your water access." He was the only other non-HOA resident with independent lake access. "Delilah's been trying to run me off for 3 years. What's her deal with us?" "Control and money. She makes a fortune selling exclusive lake access to rich people. Having us commoners around ruins her luxury narrative." Garrett studied my property with professional interest. "Your deed mentions territorial water extraction privileges. You research what that means?" 20 minutes later, we were spread across my kitchen table with deed paperwork, survey maps, and Garrett's laptop. "Holy hell," Garrett whispered. "Rex, you need to understand what you bought. You bought control of the entire lake water system." He pointed at faded blue lines on an 1887 survey map. "These markings show underground springs feeding Pine Lake. Every drop of water flows from sources on your property." My coffee cup nearly slipped. "Territorial water extraction privileges from 1887, Garrett explained. "Montana territorial law gives you authority over underground water sources. Pine Lake Estates was built in the 1990s, but the developers never secured water rights before construction." He scrolled through county records. "Every one of those million-dollar homes gets their exclusive lake access from water flowing through your land. Legally, you control their entire supply." That's when Delilah's panic made sense. She wasn't worried about my dock. She was terrified because I'd accidentally bought the foundation of her business model. "The original developers assumed lake water was public," Garrett said. "But territorial rights trump everything: zoning, HOA rules, modern permits. Western territorial governments granted water rights in perpetuity, transferring automatically with property deeds." Just then my phone rang. Delilah's voice was shrill with hysteria. "Mr. Thornton, the community is prepared to purchase your property for $200,000, $50,000 above what you paid." I looked at Garrett, who was grinning. "Delilah, I think I'll hold on to my investment. You don't understand the legal complexities. That property should never have been sold separately from community water access. Maybe you should have thought about that before your fake inspector tried to intimidate me." The line went dead. Delilah's next move came under cover of darkness. I woke Monday to find my dock ropes cut clean through. Tuesday brought loosened support posts. Wednesday, someone spray-painted trespasser across the cedar planks. The message was clear: get out or things get worse. Garrett examined the damage Thursday morning. Professional job. Trying to make a dock unsafe without making it collapse. Smart money, says Delilah. We're going to catch them red-handed. Garrett arrived with professional trail cameras, motion sensors, and audio recording. We spent the day positioning cameras around my dock. That night, I got my first real look at Pine Lake's after-dark entertainment. The cameras captured a figure in dark clothing at 2:30 a.m. with wire cutters, spray paint, and a crowbar. But the real jackpot was when the figure's phone rang. "Yeah, Mom. I'm almost done with the dock. The red paint like you wanted." Bradley Whitmore, Delilah's 19-year-old son, clear as day on video and audio, taking orders from Mommy Dearest while destroying my property with stolen HOA money. The next morning, I found Bradley at the coffee shop. His hands shook when I slid into the booth. "Morning, Bradley. Rough night?" "I don't know what you mean." I played 10 seconds of audio. Bradley's own voice filled the shop. "Yeah, Mom, I'm almost done with the dock." The kid's composure shattered. "Here's what I know. Your mom's been paying you to vandalize my property using HOA money. That's felony embezzlement." Bradley started hyperventilating. "She said it was security work. She said you were dangerous." The floodgates opened. This wasn't Delilah's first rodeo. She'd run identical harassment campaigns against 3 other homeowners who'd challenged her authority. Each family received escalating violations, property damage, and social isolation until they sold below market value. Delilah's real estate company handled every distressed sale, earning fat commissions while eliminating opposition. "She calls it community improvement," Bradley whispered. "Says some people don't fit the Pine Lake lifestyle." That weekend, I finally tackled Uncle Jasper's basement. The place reeked of 40 years of pipe tobacco and fishbait, but mostly I'd been avoiding rifling through a dead man's obsessions. Metal filing cabinets lined one wall, property surveys, water rights documentation, legal correspondence, and ominously HOA disputes 1995 to 2015. My hands trembled opening the water rights cabinet. Survey reports dating to 1887, legal correspondence with territorial land offices, court documents, and dozens of detailed maps showing underground water systems. But the document that stopped my heart was a 1994 letter in Uncle Jasper's script. "Margaret, those developers never filed for territorial water rights before building. My 1887 grant still controls every spring feeding Pine Lake. Don't mind sharing. Always believed neighbors should help neighbors, but someone ought to know what the law says. The lake's been good to me. Figure I can be good to it. Jasper." I found Margaret Sawyer's business card and dialed. "Chen Surveying," answered a weathered voice. "Miss Sawyer, this is Rex Thornton. I inherited Jasper Thornton's place." A sharp intake of breath. Jesus Christ. Jasper finally passed. That magnificent bastard. I need to understand what I inherited. "Rex, you inherited absolute power over Pine Lake. Jasper controlled every underground spring, every water source, every drop feeding that lake. Those million-dollar houses were built without water rights. But Jasper was too decent to crush them." "What does that mean practically?" "It means you own their water. All of it. Montana territorial law gives you complete authority over extraction, distribution, access, everything. You could shut off their entire supply tomorrow and it would be perfectly legal." I spread Uncle Jasper's maps across his workbench, tracing blue lines connecting my property to every expensive house. "Margaret, what would this be worth if I enforce these rights?" "Conservatively, 47 homes using your water illegally for 30 years, we're talking $3 to $4 million in unpaid usage fees. Current private water access rates run $800 to $1,000 per home monthly." Uncle Jasper had lived here 4 decades, watching developers build a luxury community on water they'd never owned. He could have destroyed them with a lawsuit. Instead, he chose generosity over greed. But Delilah Whitmore had picked a fight with the wrong neighbor's nephew. Monday morning, I walked into Maya Blackstone's law office carrying Uncle Jasper's water rights documentation. "Mr. Thornton," Maya said after reviewing documents for 20 minutes, "in 30 years of water law practice, I've never seen territorial rights this comprehensive. You don't just own lake access. You control the entire hydrological foundation of their community. Maya was the kind of lawyer who could explain quantum physics to a golden retriever. Her steel gray hair was pulled back in a business bun and her handshake could crack granite. What are my options? Option 1, nuclear, demand immediate payment of $3.4 million in back usage fees plus interest. Legally airtight, financially apocalyptic for them. Option 2, generous dictator, waive past fees, implement reasonable monthly rates, establish community conservation fund. Option 3, Maya's smile could light up the courthouse, psychological warfare. Offer them choice between cooperation and complete water shutoff. Sometimes the threat of nuclear war prevents actual nuclear war. That afternoon, we assembled what Maya called the dream team. Her partner specialized in environmental law, a hydraulic engineer confirmed my complete control, a private investigator documented Delilah's fraud pattern across 3 states, and a media consultant prepared for inevitable public attention. The beauty of your position, Maya explained, is that every hostile move Delilah made strengthened your case. Harassment, vandalism, embezzlement. She's been digging her own grave with a sterling silver shovel. Tomorrow we file formal water rights notices with the county. Every homeowner gets certified mail demanding $847 monthly for water access, effective immediately. I remembered my electrical mentor's advice about troubleshooting dangerous systems: always give people multiple ways to solve problems before cutting power completely. They'll panic, Maya continued. Emergency meetings, frivolous lawsuits, attempts to bribe officials. That's when we reveal our generous alternative: complete amnesty for past usage, sliding scale fees based on property values, and establishment of the Clara Thornton Memorial Conservation Fund. You transform from potential destroyer to reluctant community savior. That evening, Garrett brought 3 sympathetic neighbors for a secret meeting. Delilah's terrorized this neighborhood for years, whispered Janet Morrison. Nobody dared speak up because she controls the HOA budget. She tried to force us out 2 years ago, added Tom Brennan. Claimed our fishing boat violated aesthetic standards. We spent 2 hours documenting her abuse pattern, building a comprehensive case beyond my dispute. Late that night, Garrett and I installed flow monitoring equipment on my springs. You realize the responsibility here? Garrett asked. This isn't just legal authority. You're now environmental guardian of an irreplaceable ecosystem. The certified letters hit Pine Lake Estates like a nuclear strike Tuesday morning. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. By evening, Delilah Whitmore had lost her mind. She showed up at 6 p.m. carrying a manila envelope. Her perfect hair looked like she'd been running fingers through it for hours. Mr. Thornton, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. The community has authorized me to offer a very generous settlement. She opened the envelope with theatrical flair, revealing stacks of $100 bills. $75,000 cash for you to voluntarily relocate. I was recording everything. That's quite an offer. Where would this money come from? The HOA Emergency Fund. We're prepared to make sacrifices for community harmony. You mean the same fund you've been stealing from to pay your son for vandalism? Her mask slipped, revealing something dangerous. I have no idea what you're talking about. Bradley does legitimate security work. Spray painting trespasser on my dock is security work? That's when she went psycho. You have no right to those water claims. That lake belongs to this community. We built our lives here. Some outsider can't just steal everything we've worked for. The next morning, she'd filed false police reports claiming I'd threatened her with violence. Deputy Rodriguez showed up looking uncomfortable. Mr. Thornton, I have to ask about alleged threats against Delilah Whitmore. Deputy, I've got video recording of every interaction. Would you like to see what actually happened? 20 minutes later, after watching Delilah's bribery attempt and unhinged rant, Rodriguez was shaking his head. This woman has filed 17 false reports in 2 years. We're building a pattern of abuse case. But Delilah's desperation was just starting. Anonymous flyers appeared on every windshield. Dangerous individual threatens community water supply. The flyers included a grainy photo of me, claiming I was mentally unstable following my wife's death and obsessed with revenge fantasies. By Thursday, harassment escalated to coordinated intimidation. Cars drove past hourly, honking and shouting. Someone organized telephone harassment. The breaking point came Friday when I found my truck's tires slashed and water thief keyed into the paint. Security cameras caught everything, including her Mercedes parked on the access road during vandalism. Maya's investigation uncovered the real reason for Delilah's desperation. She was drowning in debt from failed investments and gambling addiction. She owed over $200,000, and the only thing keeping her afloat was skimming HOA funds. She needs you gone, Maya explained. Not just because you threaten her authority, but because you're about to expose embezzlement that could send her to federal prison. That weekend, I received a certified letter from a Seattle law firm threatening a $2 million lawsuit for intentional infliction of emotional distress and economic terrorism against community values. But the truly desperate move came Sunday night. I woke to someone breaking into my basement, targeting Uncle Jasper's filing cabinets where original water rights documents were stored. This time I didn't just watch. I grabbed my baseball bat and brightest flashlight and caught Delilah herself, crowbar in hand, trying to pry open the cabinet. Hello, Delilah. Looking for something specific? Monday morning brought Delilah's final desperate gambit via hand-printed flyer, emergency community meeting tonight 7 p.m. resolving property disputes. Media invited. Maya read it over my shoulder. She's walking straight into our trap. The meeting agenda was manipulation masterpiece. Delilah planned to present documented evidence of harassment followed by community testimony about threats to family safety, climaxing with her demand for a restraining order. She's expecting you to lose your temper under public pressure, Maya explained. What Delilah didn't know was that we'd spent the weekend preparing our counterattack. That morning, Maya filed formal water rights enforcement notices with the county, making everything official. By noon, certified letters hit every mailbox demanding $847 monthly starting immediately with a 30-day compliance deadline. Homeowners would receive notices hours before the meeting, ensuring maximum emotional impact when Delilah tried painting me as aggressor. At 4 p.m., Channel 7 News arrived expecting a simple neighbor dispute. Reporter Patricia Vance was known for investigative work on municipal corruption. Miss Vance, I said quietly during setup, you might want to research Montana territorial water law before tonight. This story is bigger than anyone realizes. I handed her a folder containing Uncle Jasper's documents, financial evidence of Delilah's embezzlement, and timeline documentation of the harassment campaign. Her eyes widened. Mr. Thornton, this isn't a property dispute. This is organized crime disguised as community management. By 6:30 p.m., the Pine Lake clubhouse was packed. The smell of tension mixed with expensive perfume. 43 of 47 homeowners showed up with media crew and an atmosphere you could cut with a knife. Delilah positioned herself at the head table like a general, surrounded by poster boards with photos of my property and a PowerPoint titled Protecting Our Community Values. Maya sat in back disguised as a concerned neighbor, briefcase full of documentation positioned for quick access. Garrett stationed himself near technical equipment with backup recording devices and our visual aids. I took a middle seat, carrying Uncle Jasper's original 1887 territorial deed in a leather portfolio that had belonged to my grandfather. 10 minutes before start, Patricia Vance approached with information that changed everything. Her background research uncovered Delilah was already under federal investigation for HOA fraud in Oregon and Idaho. The FBI had been building a multi-state case for over a year. Mr. Thornton, Patricia whispered. Federal agents are literally waiting for enough evidence to arrest her. Tonight might be exactly what they need. At exactly 7 p.m., Delilah called the meeting to order with theatrical authority. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here because our community is under attack by forces threatening everything we've built. Together. Camera lights created harsh shadows as she began what would be her last public speech. 4 months, we've endured systematic harassment, property destruction, and now extortion attempts disguised as legal water rights claims. She clicked to her first PowerPoint slide, a blown-up photo of my cabin with "Threat to Community Values" in red letters. This individual has threatened our families, vandalized community property, and now claims to own water belonging to Pine Lake Estates for 30 years. Several neighbors turned to stare with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. Delilah called her first witness, Jennifer Walsh. "Tell everyone about your encounter with Mr. Thornton." Jennifer stood nervously. "He approached my children while playing by the water and told them they were trespassing. My daughter came home crying. Complete fabrication. I'd been in town getting supplies that Tuesday." But several residents nodded sympathetically. Two more witnesses followed with creative stories about my supposed intimidation tactics and unstable behavior following my wife's death. Each testimony felt like coordinated attack designed to paint me as dangerous outsider. And now, Delilah concluded with righteous fury, he's demanding nearly $1,000 monthly from each family for water access we've had legally for decades. This is extortion, pure and simple. Scattered applause filled the room. I could feel public opinion solidifying against me. That's when I stood up. The room went silent except camera equipment hum and distant water lapping outside. I walked slowly to the microphone carrying Uncle Jasper's leather portfolio. "Thank you for letting me respond. But before we talk about harassment or extortion, everyone should understand exactly what's at stake." I opened the portfolio and removed the original 1887 territorial deed, its yellowed pages crackling in the microphone. This document was filed with Montana Territory Land Office 137 years ago. It grants my property exclusive rights to all underground water sources feeding Pine Lake. Confused murmurs, but most looked lost. Let me put this simpler. Every drop of water in this lake, every drop making your lakefront properties valuable, flows from springs located on land I legally purchased 3 months ago. Now I had their attention. You could have heard a pine needle drop. Pine Lake Estates was built in the 1990s without securing water rights from the territorial land grant. For 30 years, you've been using water that legally belongs to my property, and nobody bothered getting permission. Maya joined me with her briefcase full of documentation. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Maya Blackstone, Mr. Thornton's attorney. What he's telling you is absolutely correct. Montana territorial water law predates all modern zoning, HOA regulations, and development permits." Patricia Vance's camera captured every shocked face. "Mr. Thornton could legally shut off your water supply tomorrow. The certified letters demanding monthly fees are completely within his legal rights." But we weren't finished. Maya pulled out financial documents. "However, what you should really know is how your HOA president has been stealing your money while lying about these water rights." The audio recording of Delilah's bribery attempt filled the clubhouse. Her own voice echoed, $75,000 cash for you to voluntarily relocate. Then came video footage of Bradley's vandalism, crystal clear on the projection screen with his phone conversation. "Yeah, Mom, I'm finishing the dock like you said." She screamed like a wounded animal, lunging toward the microphone. "Those are lies, fabricated evidence. This man is destroying our community with 19th century technicalities." But the crowd had turned. Neighbors who'd applauded minutes earlier now stared with disgust. Calls for immediate resignation echoed through the room. Deputy Rodriguez, watching from the back, stepped forward with handcuffs. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for embezzlement and filing false police reports." As Delilah was led away in handcuffs, still screaming about unfair laws, I stepped back to the microphone for my final statement. "I came to Pine Lake seeking peace after my wife's death. I just wanted to fix my dock and fish in quiet waters. But when you try to steal from a widowed electrician who knows his property rights," I paused, looking directly into Patricia Vance's camera, "maybe you should check who actually owns the water you're floating on first." The silence following Delilah's arrest was broken only by handcuffs clicking and her muffled protests from Rodriguez's patrol car. 43 neighbors sat processing that their dictator was heading to federal prison while the guy they'd been ready to lynch actually owned the water keeping their dreams afloat. Patricia Vance's live broadcast went viral within hours. #WaterRightsWarrior was trending nationwide. But the real magic started next morning. Jennifer Walsh was first to knock, her daughter clutching cookies that smelled like genuine remorse. Mr. Thornton, I'm so sorry. Delilah told us you were dangerous, that you'd destroy our property values. Over following weeks, similar apologies arrived daily. Neighbors brought homemade meals, offered to repair damage, and shared stories of Delilah's reign of terror. The community, frozen in fear, was finally breathing freely. Maya's legal strategy worked like clockwork. Pine Lake Estates HOA voluntarily dissolved and reformed with transparent leadership, term limits, and mandatory audits. Their first unanimous vote was accepting my generous water rights settlement. I waived all $3.4 million in back fees. Instead, we established sliding scale monthly rates from $200 for modest homes to $600 for waterfront mansions. Every dollar flows into the Clara Thornton Memorial Conservation Fund, protecting the lake's ecosystem permanently while funding college scholarships for local students demonstrating environmental stewardship. Delilah's federal investigation revealed crimes spanning 5 years across 4 states, $300,000 embezzled from multiple HOAs, systematic harassment campaigns, wire fraud, mail fraud, and gambling debts that could have bought a small aircraft. She received 24 months in federal prison plus full restitution with her real estate license permanently revoked in 6 states. The sweetest irony? Bradley became our most dedicated conservation volunteer after accepting a community service deal. Now he teaches disadvantaged children fishing from the public access area I donated. 1 year later, Pine Lake hosts an annual conservation festival drawing families from across the region. The smell of barbecue smoke mixes with pine-scented air while children splash in water cleaner than it's been in decades. Local vendors sell fishing gear and environmental education materials, creating economic benefits rippling through the entire community. Maya's law practice became the national go-to resource for HOA abuse victims. Her best-selling book, Know Your Rights, A Homeowner's Defense Against Community Tyranny, sits on coffee tables across America. Garrett married Patricia Vance in a lakeside ceremony that made regional newspapers. Their reception was held on my donated public land. Every morning I still drink coffee on Uncle Jasper's hand-built dock, watching mist rise off water that legally belongs to me but spiritually belongs to everyone who respects it. The taste of mountain air mixed with genuine community satisfaction reminds me Clara was right. The best way to honor someone's memory is making sure others don't suffer the same injustice. The Scholarship Fund has sponsored 15 students through college, including Jennifer's daughter who wants to study environmental law and help protect lakes like Mr. Rex does. That girl's smile when she got her acceptance letter was worth more than any water rights settlement. Standing on my dock at sunset, listening to children's laughter echo across water where expensive boats once roared with entitlement, I finally understand Jasper's greatest lesson: real power isn't about controlling people. It's about setting them free to be their best selves. Drop your worst HOA horror story in the comments below. Maya's firm might be able to help you fight back. Hit that subscribe button if you love seeing neighborhood bullies get exactly what they deserve, because next week we're diving into the parking ticket that exposed a $3 million municipal corruption scheme that'll make this water rights battle look like small change.